1846, a little late in the spring. Migrating towards the setting sun was a real fashionable thing. You've heard about Lansford Hastings? He wrote an emigrant's guide to encourage movement westward and get folks across the divide. He'd exaggerate the shortcut that runs through some rugged terrain. It's inaccurate at best and crippled at least one campaign. There was an agenda at work and a population to grow. There was a story to conjure about a party we should know. Brothers George and Jacob Donner, farmers from Springfield, Illinois. Two American pioneers who rode a wagon train convoy. They left from the land of Lincoln for some place that they would fall short. They were headed to California, Sacramento to Sutter's Fort. And then there was the wagon boss, a fellow who was named James Reed. He was from the same area and on the same mission indeed. He actually served with Lincoln in something called the Black Hawk War. Back in 1831, I'd say. Just to add to his folklore. A lavish prairie schooner, this double-decker with some heat. The Teamsters weren't James' biggest fans, or anyone's from the driver's seat. Comfortable like an RV, but at a lower RPM. The Pioneer Palace car was a wagon geared more for them. James had a few dollar bills and a wife that was not well. Margaret's mother, dear Sarah Keys, suffered her own illness spell. They only packed for 4 months out. Can you imagine this effort? No U-Haul van or pickup truck to move households across the dirt. Just oxen and some bridlery at a speed one could keep by foot. With each axle revolution, bobbles hard on one's occiput. The trails launched from Independence, a little quicker than a snail's pace. Feeling each inch on wooden tires might not win any NASCAR race. They were looking to immigrate, 9 covered wagons full of goods. The future I-70 route was Amazon deep in some woods. 23 adults and 16 kids trekking across the universe. They joined this larger Russell group, and the 39 fully immersed. The rains came, turning dirt to mud and the palace into a weight. A hindrance to those behind, and an object so many'd hate. Then there lies the Big Blue River, the water that would flood the plains. They were on the wrong side to start with to serve the needs of this campaigns. It halted their cross-country journey when they started constructing their boats. Talk about soaked to the stockings when they would test to see what floats. Sarah succumbed to consumption, which really ought to set the tone. The river proved too difficult, and she be their group's first tombstone. 2 days later, the levels eased, releasing the party to go. Casualties and dysentery, top list of concerns you should know. Now the plan was supposed to save time, crossing the Wasatch Mountain Range, and through the salt flats of Utah with some artistic rearrange. The route was mere speculation and untested by its namesake. James had no inkling either just how horrible the mistake. What was proposed isn't practical for a wagon or an oxen team. What was proposed spins nightmares from such an American dream. Fort Laramie in Wyoming, and the party was a week late. James from Clayman was present to set his compatriots straight. The old route is wretched enough. You ought to not try something cute. Don't follow this work of fiction in your western-seeking pursuit. Jimmy wouldn't be dissuaded by all his well-meaning warners. He was looking to giddy up and to cut some major corners. On Independence Rock's approach, a courier would intercept. Lance was eager to tag along, and they were eager to accept. We'll rendezvous in Fort Bridger, but you'll never guess who didn't show. He left with an earlier team. Feel free to catch up as we go. The group was ravaged by infighting, and the party would split into two. Some opted to heed the warnings, while the smaller group still played through. George Donner would be their leader, which rubbed our protagonist raw. James Reed might have had a temper, and might have been loose with his jaw. At a river near a canyon, backpedaling perhaps a bit, A note was posted for them, perhaps. Lansford would finally admit the trail wasn't as clear as he thought, but he shall find a better way. Just kick back and relax a bit. He'll help should they decide to stay. James and 2 of his sons broke off. After 8 days of no contact, the calendar was running out for the proper time to react. A side note for your interest about the group Lansford was with. They were lost and starving to death, just perpetuating the myth. James managed to find the man, who managed to point out a path that's input-output ratio does not work when you do the math. The wagon train turned trailblazer, and everyone was mad, from pilot to the group scapegoat, because this route he chose was bad. The sand was hard on their progress. Numbers of oxen were left to die. When the party reached Tumbled Sink, their cattle was pilfered, oh my. A Native American tribe stole right out from under their nose. Have you been on a trip like this? This is how the legend goes. James Reed killed the man in a fight over his treatment of an ox and was banished from the party over hanging him. There were talks. Then they left an elderly man to die on the side of the road. He grew too weak to continue, and this is a dark episode. Snow even hits a month early when they reach the Sierra Nevadas. I've seen firsthand how bad it gets and can't imagine how it was. This stranded them for many months, and of course they ran out of food, feasting upon bones of livestock, and leather won't brighten a mood. After eating tree bark and hide and the roofs of their makeshift tents, they served up their dead comrades, which only makes horrible sense. Remember how James splintered off, leaving his family behind? He was banished from the party, with great prejudice, I remind. When they never made it across, he tried to go and rescue them. The weather hindered his progress and proved too difficult for some. James Reed did what he had to do and re-enlisted in the army. Went to go fight the Mexicans and made it out to a degree. After which he gathered a crew to hunt down the Donner Party. Reunited with family, and the rest is just history.